Pakistan's last-ditch effort to avoid being blacklisted by the global anti-terror financing watchdog, the FATF, has also failed. A joint session of Pakistan's parliament was convened to pass two bills that are part of Islamabad's commitment to the FATF. However, the dates have not been decided, which means that Islamabad hopes to get off the FATF radar, and those hopes being realized seems distant. The terror financing watchdog will decide whether or not to blacklist Pakistan. The country is already on the grey list. Earlier, the Pakistan government held a meeting to get all the opposition parties on board for the proposed legislations related to the FATF. The government said that the bills are necessary for getting the country out of the body's grey list. Some of the biggest perpetrators of terror continue to remain beyond the reach of law in Pakistan. Take Masood Azhar, for example. He has been named by India's investigative agencies in the Pulwama attack, but Pakistan has no idea, it claims, of his whereabouts. Islamabad says, and I'm quoting, Masood Azhar is missing, unquote. But multiple reports indicate that Pakistan intelligence agencies are very well aware of Masood Azhar's whereabouts and continue to shield him. So far, Pakistan has been saved by its friends like China, Turkey and Malaysia. But at some point, that safety shield will also expire. First, instead of clamping down on terrorists, Pakistan is misusing the laws to suppress critical voices with the arrest of journalists, threatening violence against editors. Secondly, Pakistan authorities are trying to play politics over the matter. It's been trying to convince the opposition to back those two bills on the FATF. What are these bills we're talking about? The Second Amendment to the Anti-Money Laundering Bill and the Islamabad Capital Terror Waqf Properties Bill. Both of these relating to curbing money laundering and terror financing. The result, Pakistan hopes to claim that it is showing progress when it comes to curbing terror on the ground. Thirdly, Imran Khan is still busy saving Bajwa, who is enveloped in a corruption scandal. The Pakistan Prime Minister likes to paint himself as a crusader of the anti-corruption movement, but it continues to shield corrupt army officials. He doesn't want to talk about them, and the government seems to be going after anyone who does. The FATF's list of demands is clear. Earlier this year, Pakistan was evaluated on 27 action points. Pakistan had failed on 13 of them. There were 4 broad parameters on which Pakistan did not comply. 1, anti-money laundering and terror financing. 2nd, prosecution and penalizing terror financing. 3rd, transparency and secrecy in financial institutions. And 4th, implementing an effective national mechanism to check illegal funding of terrorist outfits. Pakistan had failed on all 4 counts. Joining us live on the broadcast this minute is a very special guest. Michael Kay, former RAF pilot and investigative journalist, is joining us live from Paris. Hi, Michael. Thanks very much for speaking with us. Pakistan had failed on most of those parameters, 13 out of 27 of those. And we are talking about how there is ample evidence to show Pakistan's complicity when it comes to curbing terrorism and clamping down on terror financing. To what extent do we hope the FATF will change its mind, given the fact that Pakistan has continued to receive support from its 3 friends?
Hi, Molly. I think there's a real long history here of not just money laundering and terror financing that goes not just to the highest levels, all the way up to the Pakistan ISI, the intelligence services, but also dates back to at least 40 years ago during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. And that particular incident was when the CIA funneled a lot of cash through the ISI to the Mujahideen fighting the Soviets in Afghanistan. So, this is just a small part of a massive problem that goes to the highest levels and dates back quite a long time. If you then look at the networks that have been operating inside Pakistan for decades, you've got the Al-Qaeda affiliates, you've got the Pakistan Taliban, you've got the Afghan Taliban, you've got religious-based groups, and then you've got those groups that are anti-Indian groups. I mean, that's just 5, and then obviously they break down into subgroups and subgroups of that. So, the issue of terrorism goes back many, many decades. It's deeply entrenched. You've then got the Saudis who are financing the madrasas, and the madrasas are those schools where fundamental Islam seems to be woven into some of the teachings. So you've also then got Osama bin Laden, who was caught literally just miles away from the Pakistan equivalent of the military academy in the States, which is called West Point. So there are lots of examples that raise quite big red flags and alarm bells to terror analysts like myself, people that have been studying terrorism for a long time and the way that terrorism sort of evolves. And then you sort of take, on top of that, you take the sort of more strategic point, which is to what extent is the Pakistan government using these networks to further their foreign policy initiatives against the two key places, which are Afghanistan and India. So, when you combine all of these issues that are deeply entrenched, that run through the country's DNA for over 50 years, it's a massive problem to address.
Absolutely. Michael, to what extent do we expect the FATF to also consider the pieces of evidence that are now very much in the public domain, have also been accessed by our own investigation?
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at those pieces of evidence all morning, and what you've got is you've got quite key leaders, very important leaders, like the leader of Jaish-e-Mohammed. I mean that group in itself is a ticking time bomb. The terrorist attack in February 19 that started a very dangerous conflict, mini conflict between India and Pakistan up on the Kashmiri border. I mean, both these countries are nuclear capable countries, and the individual of this strategic corporal, we like to call them, to invoke this type of conflict is an absolutely important thing to address. When it comes to the FATF, it really is trying to look at the evidence that goes deeper than filming rhetoric in a madras or on a street corner from some of these leaders about what their intent is. Risk is capability versus intent. So it's not just about looking at what they're saying. It's a look about in order to be able to progress and do something and arrest people, you've got to look at what their capability is and then what their intent is with that capability. And I think that's an important thing to bring to the table, not just what we've seen so far from your investigation, but a deeper analysis and deeper evidence on their ability to, not just their ability to commit, but their intent to commit and whether they're about to commit something. And I think that's what the US and its coalition partners in Afghanistan have been struggling with. And I think it's what India will struggle with when it's trying to bring Pakistan to account and the government.
All right, Michael K., thanks very much for joining us with those inputs and perspectives. All eyes on that crucial FATF meeting and whether or not Pakistan will find the kind of support that it received the last time around, and will it continue to remain on the grey list or whether it will be blacklisted remains to be seen. Moving on for now to the latest coming in from India, where the Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh addressed the lower house of the